Hey everyone! Hopefully you've read the chapter on self-awareness, but after you've read that, watch this video and let's have just a quick but reflective discussion about self-awareness and how to attend to that as a helper. Like I said before, being self-aware is one of the most important things that you can do to be not only ethical, but a successful helper. As helpers, we deal with a lot of unique things and put out a lot of emotional energy and mental energy. So knowing yourself and knowing how to take care of yourself is particularly critical. So the first thing that I like to tell people is when you are trying to be more aware of yourself, whether you're a helper or a client, at first you might feel like increased self-awareness means a kind of heightened self-focus. Maybe more aware of your mistakes. A lot of times people become kind of nervous to be more aware of themselves because there are things that they kind of don't want to be aware of. So it's important to hold that loosely and to know that you might notice some things about yourself that you don't love, and that's okay. It's most important to be honest and just to gain insight. That's all we're looking for here, is for you to gain a little bit of insight about yourself, but it's okay if it feels a little challenging at first. And then ask yourself, why is self-awareness so important for helpers? We touch the lives of hundreds of people throughout our careers, and being aware of who we are and why we do what we do and how we act is very critical, because as we are the tool in helping, who we are in every way is going to impact the people that we help. And also ask you to really consider on your own, what's the difference between self-awareness and self-insight? I think they're related, but slightly different topics. Next, just kind of a question I would ask you, and something related, this will probably show up in your journals. What are the qualities of a helper? We kind of discussed in last week's journal what makes a good helper, but when you think about the people that go into helping professions, what are those qualities, and what are ways that those qualities can sometimes get in the way of self-awareness? One example that I would give is helpers tend to be people who are very compassionate, very interested in others, but it can be sort of common actually for helpers not to always do a good job of being aware of themselves or taking care of themselves. Or sometimes people who are helpers have been hurt in their life, or they've experienced something that they then want to go in and help people deal with. What can be problematic about that, however, is not everyone's experience is your experience, and maybe something that you experience as hard and difficult isn't as hard or difficult for someone else, or maybe it's difficult in a different way. So another thing to consider, what are maybe some qualities that you have and reasons that you became a helper, and in what ways could that help your ability to be self-aware and maybe sometimes not help your ability to be self-aware. And like I said before, understanding motivations, why people become helpers, is a good place to start in self-awareness. There can be a lot of self-oriented motivations which aren't necessarily bad, such as I want to better understand how to help myself. Being a helper lines up with my values. I feel good when I help others, and I want to be challenged. Those are all great reasons to become a helper, but we can also see maybe limits to those, such as if I always feel good when I help others, what about the client that you can't fix things for? Or what about the client that doesn't work out okay? Are you still going to be stable as a person? Also, are you just helping to kind of feel okay about yourself? So those are the kinds of questions that throughout your career you should make sure you're checking in with yourself about. Or others-oriented motivations. You know, I want to make a difference in other people's lives. That's great. I've received help and I want to give it back. That's awesome. I want to create social change. Absolutely. And what ways could those cause issues? What do you think? Do you think that wanting to give back the help that you received is ever problematic? Wanting to create social change. You know, I know a lot of people who are very passionate about being helpers and about advocacy, but sometimes they get frustrated because they can't fix the world overnight. So different things to consider. It's also a great time to start considering your biases. These are a huge part of self-awareness. We all come from a different place, so we all have stereotypes. We all have beliefs that might not hold up when we start to work with all types of different people. It's important to remember that you are naturally going to be attracted to others who are similar to you. It's going to be easier for you probably to feel comfortable working with someone who's more like you than not. That's neither good or bad, it's just how it is. What does matter is how you become more aware of that and how you grow so that you can be more flexible. We're also triggered by people that exhibit cultural factors that we haven't been as exposed to. It's very natural as a human to fear things that you're not comfortable with or you haven't been exposed to before. So that doesn't make you a bad person, but to be ethical, you need to be aware of that feeling and do something about it. Educate yourself, learn about something new, and challenge those feelings a little bit and be willing to explore a little. We have biases from our personal backgrounds. This is very important to start considering what ways were you raised to have certain biases? What are beliefs? And sometimes those beliefs might not seem like they're particularly nefarious or bad. For example, I spent a lot of time in the South, and there are a lot of people who are raised to be extremely evangelical Christian, and that can be a very positive value for them. But what about when you come up, when those individuals work with clients who don't hold those same beliefs? Or, for example, someone has a lifestyle that's outside of that set of beliefs, like someone is gay and married and is coming in to talk about everyday issues, but the helper is triggered because they might not have beliefs around being gay, being okay. As a helper, we always have to be neutral and meet the client where they are, so there are going to be some personal things that could come up for you, and it's important that you're able to help everybody. And since we don't get advice, we don't have to tell people what to do with their lives. We just have to help them better understand themselves. We can also sometimes struggle to differentiate clients that are more like us. As a helper, I can almost guarantee you that one day you will be sitting across from someone that reminds you so much of yourself. In one way, that can be helpful because you have a lot of shared experiences and you can have a lot of empathy for them, but it can be easy to forget that they are not you and they are different and they have different needs and experiences than you have. So these are the kinds of things you need to start thinking about, and to be successful as a helper, you need to think this way. What are my biases? What are the things I'm aware of, not aware of? This is a continual process because we ask our clients to do this. We're asking our clients to be more self-aware, and it starts with us knowing how to be more self-aware ourselves, I think. So what are some kind of strategies for increasing self-awareness? First of all, know that if you feel like you don't know yourself very well, you don't have a lot of insight about why you are the way that you are, that can come with time. It's absolutely something that you can practice and something you'll be asked to practice in this class. Things that can help, however, therapy, counseling. I really recommend that you take advantage of counseling opportunities when you can, because they can be a nice place to learn about yourself. Self-reflection practices. Some people like to do things like journaling. Different artistic expressions can be helpful in kind of growing to know yourself. I even sometimes try to pay attention to what kind of stories I'm drawn to or what characters in a TV show do I really like. And a lot of times it's because I identify with him. And when I reflect on that, I learn something about myself. And then mindfulness. I'm hoping that mindfulness is a topic or a term that you've heard before. But mindfulness is simply the quality or state of being aware of something. And I really like this illustration because it's not about being full, like having your mind filled with things, but just kind of being present and aware. A lot of times people do meditation for mindfulness, and that might include just sitting down and being quiet and just sort of taking a time to be aware of how you're feeling and then asking yourself, why do I feel that way? What things are going on that make me feel that way? How am I thinking about this? Maybe challenge yourself. Are there other ways to think about this? Practicing mindfulness, awareness of yourself, again, is one of the most important things that you can do as a helper. Ultimately, we're asking our clients to be more mindful of themselves, and we can't get there until we slow down. Like I said before, a lot of helpers are very good at caring for other people and having a lot of empathy for other people, but often don't do a good job of being aware of themselves. So your own mindfulness practice and growing an awareness of yourself and an acceptance of yourself while also challenging yourself is all part of mindful practice. Oh, let's go back a slide. And just as important as sort of that mindfulness of just an ability to be open and aware to what is happening, is compassion. Mindfulness will facilitate your self-awareness, and compassion will sometimes help interfere or protect you from that type of self-awareness that's almost like a heightened freaking out of, oh no, I'm aware of this thing. So it's a process of being aware of yourself and also compassionate to yourself because you're a human too. So, in understanding and exploring your own insights, you actually can practice the same tools that you'll be using with your clients. First, exploring when have I felt this way before? Or when have I thought about this thing before? Just kind of having an open mindset, seeing what kind of comes across your mind. Trying to gain insight. Okay, I felt this way last time when someone spoke to me that exact way. Why did I feel that way? Why was I so upset when that person told me that I was too young to be doing what I'm doing? Oh, because that really triggers me because I feel incompetent when someone makes some comment about my age. I'm maybe being a little honest here. And then action plan. How can I make different choices when I notice that I feel this way? Oh, well, maybe someone talking about the fact that I'm young doesn't mean I'm not experienced and not educated and not good at my job. So there's my a little bit of personal therapy on here as an example. But there are just so many little instances like this that as you practice mindfulness, you'll be aware of new things. But the key is that you can start to make different emotional choices. You can be less triggered by things. You can have more control over your responses to the environment, which hopefully can help you lead a happier, healthier life, and happier, healthier helpers make better helpers. So, self-awareness over time leads to self-insight. Awareness is to know. Having insight is to understand. The more you know about yourself, strengths and growing areas, the more effectively you can be present with and for others. And be gentle with yourselves, because being a human is just hard to do sometimes. So be nice to yourself this week, and I'll catch you on the flip side.